Welcome back, everyone, to the Shock Absorber podcast. It's very wonderful to have you along with us, as always. Whether you're on your favourite podcast app or you're watching us on YouTube, hello and welcome. And I've got two special co-hosts.
Special.
The lights are wrong.
Oh, the lights are wrong.
We don't normally have a sign either.
Oh, you're talking about the podcast? I'm like, what's going on? And I'm like, no, that's... Yeah, right.
When we're on, we normally don't have a sign.
What a sign of things to come on this podcast. So you're just making fun of me.
Straight out the gate.
Ethan, welcome.
Yes. Hello.
What's your title? We should just remind everyone.
I am the youth mission pastor.
Yeah. Admiral. Were you were knighting people at youth
I
last
was
week?
knighting people at youth on Friday night. Yeah, I brought a. I have a sword. See, this is. I knew starting the conversation. I have a sword, and it's just like a cool thing that I have on my bookshelf, and it's like a proper ancient Greek sword. It's not sharp or anything, and I brought it to youth as an illustration for the talk I was doing.
Yeah,
we were talking about the Bible being described as sharper as a double-edged sword, and I had a sword to be like, it's better than this thing, and this thing's so cool. And then afterwards, a bunch of them wanted to get knighted, and so I was knighting them. It was really funny.
Wow.
So I don't know how that changes my role, or at least my title. Sir Ethan, Youth Mission Pastor. Yeah, that's me.
Sir Youth Pastor.
Sir Youth Pastor.
Very cool.
That's me.
Welcome to the podcast.
Good to be
You've
here.
been on before, obviously.
I have, yes.
And we have Brayden here.
Hello.
Title.
Or technically arts pastor / student pastor.
Yeah.
But I think the title I'm on this podcast for is youth coordinator.
Yes, this is true.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll put my other hat on.
So you guys both coordinate or organise our Friday night gathering and also our youth group.
Yes.
But the reason, and this was Stu's idea, was that you guys come on was because we just, you recently held Soul Revival Church's first ever youth camp.
It's pretty unreal. It was very cool.
Yeah, right. And the kind of learnings from that, and really trying to show the Shock Absorber in action, but learning from you guys, not just leading younger crew, but also you being younger pastors on our staff team as well, about what we can learn from you as well from the youth group and the youth camp. What was the name of the youth camp?
It's called Origin.
And where did that? Could you tell the story of where, like, you've been trying to hold this camp for what, 3 or 4 years?
Yeah,
Is that
ages. We first, so we were like, we've finally got to a number of crew that'll be great to have a youth camp with, and this was probably 4 years ago, 3 years ago now, 4 years ago,
2018, 2019,
2019, whatever year COVID hit,
2019,
2020,
2020 then.
2020, COVID started at like February, March 2020.
Okay.
2019 was the bushfires.
Yes. So we had bushfires, which that did not affect our planning at all.
Oh,
we were like, this will be fine.
We went on schoolies in the middle.
We went on schoolies in the middle of a bushfire. We can do whatever we want. And we started planning youth camp in early 2020, and COVID starting to kind of kick around and do its thing, and
it's like,
we're like,
bird flu or
it's
swine
fine.
flu. It's nothing's gonna happen.
It's like it'll be totally okay. And we got through literally all of the planning, all of the everything had been done.
We were meant to
and
leave
then
a week, weren't we?
We had a week left, and we had a planning meeting just to be
Monday.
like on the Monday.
Yeah.
Before the Friday being
To be
the youth
prepared.
camp, to get prepared, just to be like, all right, what are the last things we need to do? And over the weekend, that meeting stopped being what are the last things we need to do, and became do we do it?
Yeah.
Like, should we? So we sat and we're in the factory sitting on these couches, and we're huddling around. It's like,
Throwing
I don't know,
around,
like,
and
it should be
positives
fine.
and
Like,
negatives.
yeah, like,
what if we're the people that start this? Like,
yeah,
the whole
you're a
pandemic?
super spreader.
yeah. What if the
it's just-
pandemic? Yeah, what if this is a super spreader event?
Yeah.
Like, all this is going on, and then we decided not to, and turns out that we didn't need to decide not to, because it got like we were just
By
locked
Wednesday,
down.
we were in lockdown.
Yeah.
We had made that call on Monday,
Oh, wow.
and by Wednesday, we were locked down.
So that's taken us out 2 more years
So RIP Origin, and then
at the time.
At the time, and then 2 years pass, and we've had youth online, and we've had heaps of fun, and we announced camp another time online.
Yeah, online we did a scavenger hunt, and the the prize was going to be a reveal of when youth camp, like the next year, but then because we were in another lockdown,
and then the next lockdown
it
hit, so we
became
didn't actually.
the prize became like just a piece of paper that said like to be continued.
Yeah.
And since that, we've did 3 more treasure hunts.
Teasers.
That all ended with to be continued.
Yeah.
Because every time the joke was to the leaders, we'll announce youth camp at the end of one of these treasure hunts. But the kids are just like, this is the most annoying
We're
thing.
over this.
They were so over it. And then by last term, we had a pirate night.
Yeah.
And that is a perfect opportunity for a treasure hunt.
Is it? Oh, for treasure hunt, yes. of
And
course.
so we did, as a part of the game, we had to go find some treasure, and they came out and they opened the same box that we used the first time, which none of them at this point, all of them.
Well, Ted was the one.
Ted was the only, there's one person in our youth group who is now a leader that
Yes,
was there for the last camp. Like for the last camp announcement. So none of them actually know what's going on. We're just as leaders having a muck around.
Yeah.
And we opened the first box that was the thing that first announced it, and it was camp, and then they all got excited, and it was very fun. But it was very dark, so they didn't actually understand what it was. Like, they couldn't read it.
You can't see it.
What is this?
Because isn't the origin branding was like black background and white
logo, and so it was. It didn't actually quite hit as hard as we wanted it to hit, but it was fun. It was exciting. There was lots of cheering once they figured it out.
That is the lead up to the youth camp, but then you finally held it a couple of weekends ago.
We did.
Do you want to describe the planning process for that? Was it the same, or it would it have to be?
It was
different?
very different.
Yeah.
Different
Originally-
leaders, different kids.
Yeah, different. Again,
everything.
like
So
we
different
mentioned, the crew that were in youth group, a lot of them aren't in youth group anymore. And we originally planned that thing. The years look different sizes of different leaders, all lots of that different. But mainly we had planned it. It was called Origin because it was a planet. We were discovering a planet. It was like alien theme, basically.
Yeah.
And we were going to do it in a specific campsite, and then that campsite had changed. So we were going to be going to a place called Wedderburn, and instead we were going to Chittick Lodge in Gerringong. So they were 2 very different sites, which meant that we brought a few things across, but we changed it a lot.
Yeah, we pretty much started from scratch.
Just
Like,
kept the name.
Basically.
Yeah, totally. And hopefully we'll be able to use that name for the next however long we have this name for, but until we get bored of it. But I think it was really fun. But yeah, because we were going to a different location, we just were able to completely restart. And I think that having a different team was really good to also restart. Like that way, everyone felt included, and it was a big deal. It was really fun.
What's the hardest and what's the easiest thing about planning a youth camp?
The hardest thing for sure was the money stuff. Like we are very blessed to have Michael Greaves, shout out to him, who is far smarter than I am.
Central coordinator.
He's a central coordinator of our youth group, and I had a very fun conversation on the phone where he was walking his dog, and I was just reading him numbers, and he was like, "Yeah, that works," and was like helping me do some maths, and it was very, very helpful.
I can imagine.
I think that personally, I am not naturally gifted at that kind of organising. And so it was very new for me, but it was very helpful to have a really awesome team who have very different skill sets that help out with that kind of thing. Because I like the money thing for me was ridiculous. I had no idea how to figure that out.
Yep.
And
But the money thing in terms of like this is how much money.
yeah, like how much do we charge
For
people?
rego.
How much what's like you're looking at campsites? What's a good price for a campsite? I don't know if this is reasonable or not. Like that kind of thing. Was all really.
You got everything covered. Have you got food covered? Have you got
Yeah.
The
other
pros
stuff
and
you
cons
need
of different places.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's the hardest thing.
I found that was the hardest thing.
Okay.
However, I think other people might not find that. But I
Brayden,
found-
anything that you'd add to being the hardest to plan?
Well, I didn't have to do any of that stuff, so that helps. That helps me think that it wasn't the hardest thing that I had to do with.
That's the easiest thing.
Yeah, I think it's that unpredictability of not knowing. We hadn't been to that site before, so we had people on the team who had been to that site for school camps or a long time ago. But when you're trying to plan for a night, or you're trying to plan for a whole bunch of activities in a place that you're not actually familiar with, that can be interesting. I think Greaves is the one who brought it up a couple of times. Like when we're doing youth group here at the factory or at Kirrawee, and maybe you need something or something isn't going as well as you'd want to do, you can pivot pretty quickly. You know the space, you know what's around. Oh, okay, if we just go grab a pool noodle and do that, then this game will work way better. You can kind of pivot a lot easier. Or like, it's raining outside, this isn't working, we'll do this. Like, it was obvious. It's just trying to figure out, just trying to work through the unknowns of that aspect of things was probably the hardest bit of planning for us.
That's understandable because here you know where everything is too. Yeah, you can just adapt pretty quickly. What about easiest thing? You just didn't have to do much.
Easiest thing? Oh, I think the easiest thing was just bringing the excitement. Again, I kind of relate it to a few people. Kind of forgot how keen the crew would be. Like you're so used to like maybe for a few things. We don't generally have to do this a lot, but like you're like, okay, the leaders will need to set the excitement, and then they'll get excited, and then we'll move on. Like, but instead forgetting that obviously they had never done a youth camp before.
Well,
none of them had done a youth camp before. I was on the last youth camp.
That's what I'm saying. I think that you were a youth kid when I was leading. Oh no, you were leading? No,
he would have been there.
I was just
Revive Aliens.
Yeah, Revive Aliens. I was there.
I was in year whatever the last year that does that camp.
Yep.
I don't remember.
I was in the first year. I was in the first year.
Oh, then I probably would have.
You wouldn't have been there.
No, I wouldn't have been there. But the year before, I would have been there.
Yeah,
that's what I was just thinking. That's how long ago. It is. Okay.
So I.
So for context, that was while we were at Guymer Anglican, Sorrel Youth
Community.
Sorrel Youth Community would run a camp, but as a
Revive.
church, we have not done it. Yeah, it was called Revive Camp.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so I was on that camp I was on the band, and I think I was in year 10. Shout out to Evan Moses, Ben Tyrrell, and Keegan. Very fun. But so I think in my head I was like, oh, we got to G this up. They haven't done it before, so some of them might be a bit iffy, but they were so keen.
I remember when I announced it when I was leading a service a few weeks before, they were so keen for it just then.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Which I think was really cool. So we didn't have to. The easiest part was getting them excited.
That was easy. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. So here's the question: why did you do it? Why did you do the youth camp after all it being such a hassle? Like trying to get it actually
such
happen.
a hassle.
Well, trying to actually
I do want to say it actually like it sounds like it might have been a hassle, but it really wasn't. I was talking to someone afterwards. I was like, I think God gave us a freebie this year. Like it was so easy and nothing went wrong, and it was absolutely it was such a breeze. And all the horror stories I had heard about youth camps and just stuff going wrong or whatever, that was kind of, I think that was weighing on me a little bit. And then we got through it, and I was like, oh, actually that was super chill. Like that was not very hard at all. Because it was just hanging out and having fun and getting excited and doing and there was some harder moments, but it was not a disaster at all, and that was fantastic. And like no one went to hospital, for example, which is so many of the stories I heard were, oh, here's this person went to hospital and this person went to hospital. And I'm like, that's cool. Not really encouraging for the guy trying to run his first youth camp. But
I remember. I remember leading a youth camp and being a leader on it, and someone went to hospital. I'm pretty sure.
Totally. Right. Like, and it's a thing that happens. And so, it was such a blessing that it was as problemless as it was. Which was really cool. But back to your actual, sorry. And I said all that because we're not coming on and being like, oh, it was really hard, but it was worth it. It was actually really fun.
We had to really grind it out.
There was none of that at all. It was great. We had a whole bunch of meetings on Wednesdays in the lead up. That was so fun. Like we met for 4 Wednesdays in a row.
Yeah,
and
now
then
we're up to 6.
And now we're up to 6 because we were like, oh, we're gonna watch the Matildas and we're gonna do this other thing and we're gonna
camp debrief. We had a blah and then a camp debrief.
Yeah, so it was awesome. We're like 6 Wednesdays in a row.
Excuse to hang out next Wednesday. If anyone has one,
it's great.
Start planning next year.
Yeah, totally. So it's really fun and really exciting. And one of the reasons we did it is because. We talk on the Shock Absorber all the time about friendship, and one of the things that a youth camp does really well is it forces everyone to stay together for an extended period of time, and there are very few things more awesome for friendships than being stuck.
Proximity.
Yeah, like it is, and I say that as someone who has made lots of lifelong friends at camps. and stuff like that. It is so beautiful to see how close people get because they're sharing a room. Like it's unreal how that happens. And there's also this really amazing fire that gets stoked on a youth camp that people just get really, really keen for Jesus. And that's really exciting to see as well. But yeah, I think one of the reasons we did it was to really, one of the things, I think there's lots of reasons. And so I don't want to just jump on, I don't think I can just jump on one. But one of the reasons, as well as those that I've already said, was, no, I lost it in my clarification.
That's right. Is there a specific purpose? Like you just wanted the crew to grow?
Well, yeah, you want them to grow in their faith, you want them to grow in their friendship, and you want them to grow, in their relationships, and you want them to grow in their connection to the community. So they're going, this is my camp, this is my youth group, and
to
this
the
is
church community.
The church community.
Yep.
And I think those, grow in their faith first and foremost, and then grow in their friends and grow in their connection. I think is really beautiful. It's a really cool opportunity to give them a shirt. And I love semiotics. And
it's just the memories associated with that camp. This is why we did the jumper I'm wearing the last week away we went on. It's for that very reason.
Yeah. And that really, there's something about the semiotic of a camp shirt or of merch that really locks you into that. And maybe that's I'm particularly excited about that kind of stuff because I'm such a sucker for getting the merch and then repping it. But I think that's partially because semiotics is a real interesting thing, and a camp shirt is really good for that.
Speaks to their identity about being in Jesus, and
and so I think those three things are the main purposes. Can you think of any others or any build on that, Brayden?
No, I totally agree. Like nothing really replaces the factor of time in a relationship.
Yeah.
Totally.
Especially, and whether that's time spent with God, whether that's time spent with each other, time spent in community.
Spouse.
Yeah, spouse, yes. Well, I was talking about youth camp, but yeah.
Your spouse was on youth camp.
There may be some future spouses there, I don't know.
No purple.
No purple at all.
I do not know what that means.
No dark blue or hot pink. Yeah,
there was a joke that is circulated in Christian meme land. That is the idea that that you're not supposed to if girls are pink and boys are blue, they're not supposed to combine and make purple. There's no purple allowed. There's no purple, and so that became a hilarious joke that was running throughout the whole thing, and that then turned into all sorts of things. But yes, that was that.
That makes sense.
Have inside joked on a public podcast.
Yeah, I was going to say you need to explain that.
Yeah. But in saying that was also a thing we did on camp, so it counts.
Yeah. No purple. Lots of dark blue, lots of hot pink, no purple. So I think, again, it's that not excuse, it's that great time to spend together, whether that's in doing the talks or having quiet time or longer discussion groups than we're able to have when you have 2 hours. Like I think we've been chatting a lot about this recently, is like maximum. If you guys come and hang out if youth crew want to come and hang out on a Friday, we get them for like 2.5 hours a week. Yeah. And so just having them for a whole weekend to hang out it's awesome. That's like, I don't even know how many weeks of youth, you know what I mean? In terms of time spent.
To total how much time you spent with them.
Yeah, exactly. And and nothing really replaces catching a 2-hour train with someone or having being in a room with people, or a whole bunch of things. So
can we just delve into this thing? Because I found this actually a little bit surprising. You caught the train down there and caught the train back.
Yes.
Yeah. Why?
Well, the train there was to make camp start a little earlier. So it was really...
It's like you're traveling, instead of traveling individually, you're traveling down together.
Yeah, there's actually instead of starting at 6 when everyone got there, we started at 4:30. Like it was this awesome, not 6, 7. Yeah. Like we didn't get there technically until 7 o'clock at night, but we started at 4:30.
It's like part of the adventure.
Because we had this big adventure together. We brought a foosball table onto the train, and
can we get? Can you put that photo in there? That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, so you're playing the foosball table that we have here at Kirrawee.
Yeah, we
you
just
carried it onto the train, and then we're playing in the. I think they call it the vestibule, the bit in the middle.
We were in
If
the
anyone
vestibule.
rides on Sydney trains,
Yeah.
it's that middle bit you walk onto when you get on the platform.
Yeah.
But you were playing in there.
we were playing there. It was unreal.
I think the reason why we did the train was answered by a whole bunch of the crew by the end of the train trip being like, can we catch the train all together to Week Away?
Yeah, fully.
They're like, how close is Nowra train station to Watersley?
Bomaderry.
Yeah.
That's where you catch it to.
Yeah,
But you have
basically.
to-
But like
that's
that
hard.
answers the question of why we did it, because they were like,
Wow, that's
why
pretty
can't the
cool.
whole church just catch
It's
the
like
train?
I suppose it's like catching a bus all together, isn't
yeah,
it?
exactly.
It's such a big fun exciting thing of just, and it just, again, it's that time thing. Like you actually just get to spend way more time together, and you just like it. Yeah, it made it start early, and it made that start was really fun and together because you're stuck in this tiny little section, and you're hanging out. It was awesome.
And didn't you have
The way
some,
back.
I was just going to say, didn't you have some people that you didn't know play foosball with you?
Yeah.
We had some
Ministry, bro.
had
Ministry.
some randoms. It was great.
Yeah.
It was, but that was like no one batted an eyelid. They were like,
No.
yeah, cool.
Yeah, join in.
Yeah, I'll
Cool.
just come and hang out. Either move into the quiet carriage, which some people did, which is fair enough.
Yes.
Or come join, which they did. It was awesome.
So on the way back,
Well, on the way back, we were gonna ask parents to. So something that we have done that youth did at camps previously was have like a barbecue for the parents as well on the last day, which makes it a really beautiful all age, all stage expression actually, and like it brings everyone in together. We didn't have, because we didn't know the site very well and we didn't understand, like the timing was a bit weird, and Gerringong's like an hour and a bit to like it's a long way away. We were going to do that, and then we were kind of not going to do that, and we are just going to have everyone come and pick them up. And then Brado, who we had in our team and was just there to come and help out, was like, as a parent, I reckon you would win heaps of points if you took the train home too, and the parents would be super appreciative of the fact that they didn't have to drive all the way down. And so actually part of the way back was to love the parents and go, yeah, we'll bring them back, so you can only just have to go to the thing. And then it turned out that they loved the train back too. So
was there quite a few crew sleep on the train on the way back?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
It was
totally.
pretty split. We had a whole carriage, so the top half was a lot of like iPods on, reading, chilling, sleeping kind of vibe, and the bottom half was playing Truth or Dare and just getting super raucous.
Yeah,
so that
it was
fun.
awesome. It was really good.
Yeah.
So we, as you said before, Ethan, as part of the youth community at Guyme Anglican, Soul Revival had a lot of youth camps.
Yes.
Anyway, but this is the first one ever for Soul Revival Church,
Yes.
which we've kind of been around for almost 11 years now, so we haven't done one in 11 years. Is there anything, and we've got people that used to do the ones at Guyme.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything, you would have heard stories, but is there anything that you guys carried over from that time into this particular camp? I mean, you pinched Fee.
We pinched Fee, so she came, which is great. She did the talks, which is phenomenal. She hadn't done a youth talk in 10 years or something like that.
Yeah.
But she was the
She did
coordinator of the Year 7-8 group for a long time.
She was a long time.
And also the 9-10 group before that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, she's a legend, and she did our talks, which was really, really fabulous.
If you want to hear more about Fee, you can catch the first episode of her Chip Lunch podcast, which was only relatively recently. So if you do want to hear more about the legend of Fee, dive into that. We'll put a link in.
Always plug.
Yes.
So one of the things we did was we took a game that was played many moons ago called Schlocker.
Oh gosh.
Which was excellent fun.
So good.
Schlocker was one of those games where it was invented purely because the crew at the time, this was 15 years ago or something like that.
Probably more.
Probably
the
more.
First one, I think.
Yeah, it was invented because there were all these like little fights about which sport was the best. And so Jai McMorty
and also
some
which
people,
suburb people were from.
yeah.
As well,
So Jai McMorty sat down and was like, "What we can do is we're going to make the ultimate game. We're going to combine as many of these games as we can." And he has combined into this like, there's this triangular field with 3 goals, and it's like part footy, part soccer, part golf, part like there's all these part AFL. There's all these cool little bits to it, And
so confusing.
It's awesome. It's really, and he had a slideshow that I was able to show. Like, it was awesome.
Yeah.
And we took out the one rule that made a lovely person break their
ankle.
So that was
ankle.
that was the only time I played soccer, was when this person broke their ankle.
Yeah. So that was, again,
What
the
was
thing
the
of
rule?
like,
It was the
okay, so I don't know what was going through Jai's head, but he was like, the way to get footy in there was to make one person on each team be the designated try scorer.
That's right.
And that person could at any point pick up the ball and run with it and score a try.
Yeah.
If that person picks up the ball, anyone else on the other two, like there's 3 different teams on the field, on the other 2 teams can jump on you
Can tackle
and just
them,
tackle
You
you.
just managed to tackle you.
And so these people, so this girl picked up the ball, and it was in the middle of a chicks round. So what you would also do is you'd, and we included this rule because it was great, you sub off all the boys,
Yeah.
and only the girls all play. And so it was during one of those rounds, and all the girls just piled on.
That is what happened.
on this person, and then they all kind of
That's why I actually
dispersed,
missed
and
it.
she had broken her ankle.
She was just lying on the ground.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and so we took that rule out because that's chaos.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we had enough chaos.
we
anyway.
had more than enough chaos.
One of the rules that was great was you can use your hands to like deflect at any point. And so people were running, and like to control the ball, they would like grab it, hit it with their hands. And that actually was really great for those that weren't as good at soccer because they could just like intercept or like knock things out of the way. And it was great. It was really, really fun.
I'd drive him mad.
My favorite was you take the conversions after you've scored a goal with a golf club hitting a tennis ball through the uprights.
It was amazing.
Everyone missed except for Greaves,
Yeah.
who scored his conversion.
He's not bad at golf.
And I cut. Well, that was the funny thing is the one of the crew then yelling out, "Of course Greaves scored. He's old." Oh, of course Greaves is good at golf. He's old.
So funny.
And I love that.
That's so funny. Yeah.
So, but yeah, great because it got everyone involved, and
Yeah.
it was like an old school throwback. That was very fun to do.
Oh, and originally one of the you raised, Joel, was part of it was there was this rivalry between suburbs.
There
And
was,
so what
yeah.
they would do is they would make two of the three teams, all the 3 teams, different suburbs.
Yep.
And so we did that because there is not much of a rivalry, so it wouldn't have caused a big deal.
No.
And so what we did is we had Kirrawee and Grace Point away. We had Gymea and Cronulla.
Gami Bay and Cronulla.
Yeah, they were the true Shire. and everyone else. And everyone else was North Loftus. It was great because the real Shire got no points.
Oh, really?
They lost quite
They
dramatically.
struggled.
And then the other 2 got total of 15 points each, so there was a draw.
There you go.
Yeah.
Which was it was a really fun game.
Josh Jones missed the last minute
conversion.
conversion
That would have
after
won the
coming
game.
from a soccer semi-final.
Yeah.
There
Where he had
winning
scored
goal.
the winning goal at
Yep.
extra time.
Yeah.
He couldn't nail the golf tennis ball conversion. But yeah, it was very fun.
It was really fun. And so that was something we brought back that was really, really exciting.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
they loved it and we loved it. And yeah. It was
But
really
there was lots of things we brought across
totally.
from being either at camps or doing or camps like Fee and Greaves had run before. Things
Yeah.
like I don't know, Warm and Fuzzies,
Self-catering.
self catering. Oh, yeah, shout out to
Quinn and Rachel.
Quinn and Rachel who
killed it.
killed it. The food was so good,
Unreal.
like actually unreal.
Unreal
yeah,
camp food.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So self-catering, you're saying that people from the church love and
Yeah.
servingly cook the food for all the kids
Yep.
for every single meal.
It was unbelievable.
And the cool thing is we didn't even have to ask them. They came and found Greaves. We're like, so we cooking? Like, have you got anyone to cook yet? They were like, that's how
we're
keen they
cooking,
were
right?
to hang
Yeah.
out. And
Yeah.
That's cool.
that was really cool.
That is really cool.
And they did an awesome job. Like, yeah, unbelievable. But like, yeah, things like that, like how we structured days or
I was going to ask you what
we-
was the day? What was a day look like? So let's say Saturday. What's that going to be?
well, weather was a factor.
Weather was a factor. So
None of the crew will know that weather was.
yeah, well, yeah. What was really interesting is what we planned and what actually happened was very different from a structural perspective. And yeah, as Brayden said, none of the crew know really because you couldn't really tell.
Yeah.
However, it was a little bit all over the place. But we started in the morning with breakfast, and then we had a talk and discussion groups and quiet time, kind of after breakfast, and then we went into our first activity, and then which was kind of an all-in big fun thing. Then we had lunch, and then we split off into guys and girls. And the girls went and did something fun, and the guys did something fun. And then we kind of repeated that, but swapped the girls stayed on site, the guys went off site. And then the aim was to do another big thing together. And then we were going to finish the night with some wide games or something like that. And so some of that happened, some of that did not happen.
Because of weather.
Because of the weather, because it was raining.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, for example, we had this lovely, awesome, exciting chalk chase planned out. And you can't do a chalk chase in the rain. It doesn't work.
It's just going to wear off straight away.
So,
okay.
Sub some things out.
We talked about the things that you brought across. Was there anything you didn't bring across from history? Was it just not culturally relevant? Like not talking about The Simpsons, for example.
Yeah, we actually, I think Fee took a Simpsons quote out of her talks.
Yeah, I think she did. But like Simpsons quotes are often used in youth talks, but
totally.
not anymore.
No.
Because it's been a long time since The Simpsons was popular with the young crew.
Yeah, I don't know. There was lots of calls made, and I like shout out to all the people and the leaders and Brado and
totally.
And Quinn and Rachel as well. Like everyone was super flexible.
Yeah.
But the site that we were at meant that weather was a big factor because there wasn't like any big covered spaces really.
Oh, yeah.
So other than like being in a chapel or being in the dining hall. So it just meant that when we woke up on Saturday morning, it was kind of sprinkling. It was like, oh, we're all good. And then it was like raining sideways. And we're like, oh, okay, maybe we're changing that. And then it wasn't raining anymore and the sun was out. So it meant that like everyone had to be flexible.
Yeah.
And I think everyone really, really was. And like that's to a point where the crew wouldn't even know that things like that were going on, which I think is really encouraging.
I just think it's an interesting point. That's why I almost interrupt you though. That's that how do you, might be a question for people listening to the podcast, how do you build that flexibility into your teams?
I think it's being friends before your leaders.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I think if your leaders are all mates with one another and one of the beautiful things that comes out of friendship is trust. And it's this,
back each other up.
Yeah, it's this thing of like, oh, okay, you guys are going to make a call and we're good enough friends for me to go, yeah, you know what, I'll run with that. And we had some like difference of opinion that we were able to talk about at debrief, for example. And that was great that we were able to talk about it then. But at the time it was like, no, we're going to go with this and we're going to do this together and we're going to be a part of this together. And then we were able to talk about it because we're mates and that's not a big deal. But it wasn't I'm going to get up and challenge you in front of everybody, which wouldn't happen if you were actually not trusting one another or mates with one another enough.
And opinions or thoughts might take precedent over
relational
teams.
And over the team. Yeah, for sure. And so, there's something really beautiful about having a really solid group of mates leading together. It is a really powerful thing because it leads to flexibility. It leads to trust. It leads to backing one another up, even when you might not necessarily back them up in the moment. Like it's a really, really cool culture it creates. Yeah. What is, you said you came home on the train and the parents were appreciative of that and people were falling asleep and blah, blah, blah. What does it look like now? Because I'm asking because you talked about how good it was to be able to spend time together and build stronger, lasting, deeper friendships. What does it look like now back on at church and especially Friday night gatherings, but even like a lot of the youth obviously still go to other gatherings as well. So how much of it has the camp affected that?
Oh, I think it's already...
Sorry, can you go with this? I need to take a call.
Okay.
Yeah, all good. I think you can already see we did some things. We did a big game last week that was a very like... We're playing ultimate tag in the church, so it's like a very physical, athletic kind of game. And I think you could already see a couple of kids who weren't as excited about doing something that is very athletic were still really keen to hang out and kind of helped facilitate the game, which I think is a really fun showing of culture where it's not just them going, maybe they're doing something that I'm not necessarily going to be super stoked about. Instead of going, well, then I guess I'll do my own thing. It's like, no, I'm going to get involved in this and help make it better with what I care about, which I think is really encouraging, cool coach.
It sounds like almost like more willingness even just to participate, let alone make it better.
Or just make it theirs as well. I think that's really cool. Yeah. And Friday, like we've always been blessed with a a culture, especially with the crew that we have at the moment, where they're really keen and happy to serve. And if you haven't been to one of our Friday gatherings, it's pretty sick that Eth and I, we do bits of, like, obviously we do a fair bit of preaching and things like that, but in terms of like service leading, praying, reading, helping with sound, helping with proclaim and things behind the scenes like that as well, it's mostly crew.
They're stepping up and doing it.
Well, it's their gathering. It's their like, as much, even though Eth and I are paid staff.
Yeah,
it's if as much, if not more, their gathering than it is ours. So I think that's really cool that they get so involved in that. And again, it's only been 1 week, so it's kind of hard to say what the long-term effects of things like a camp will be. But it's really cool that they jump in and get involved, and a couple of them have, really stepped up and do a great job on Friday, and now are popping up in other services to help out as well, which is really encouraging.
I feel like that might be something that people are like, how do we raise up leaders? How do we raise up people that are willing to step up like those guys are doing, like you said, like you just said there, Brayden? What does that look like, and why is it like this has taken a long time to put into place, to have young crews stepping up and running almost every single part of the Friday night gathering? What would be your encouragement? I'll ask you, Eth. What would you be encouragement to start making that happen, and how can you make that happen? Because, I mean, that's what so many churches probably struggle with, is perhaps engaging youth to take them from finishing school to being just gradually older people of the church community. But we already think the younger people are part of the community now. How do we encourage them to participate in that rather than just come and consume it?
Yeah, I heard a really cool. I was in a conversation about including people with a range of disabilities in church and how to do that. And one of the lines from that I think you can pull out of just that particular issue and into a whole bunch of things is what we can fall into the trap of doing with that particular group of people is going for inclusivity, which is a really beautiful, important thing. But how do we as a church community go from inclusivity to belonging? And that was a discussion that was had, was how do we do that? And I think that same kind of discussion should be had about teenagers. Like, how do we go from we're not just putting on a thing for you that you feel included in, but how do we do something together that you belong to? And
you have ownership of. And so I think something like really cool training things like we have at the Friday gathering, that at one point is a training thing, but on the other hand, it's actually a beautiful sense of, this is your gathering, own it. Like, you belong here as much as we do. We're not just leaders putting on a show for you. It is a thing that is yours. And that is a really, really beautiful thing, and something that I think teenagers recognize. Like, I think there's a really obvious, this is mine. When I feel like they're listened to, feel like they're part of something.
Totally.
Rather than just like, here, I'll tell you what to do.
Yeah. I had some non-Christians come up to me today. I was at Kirrawee High doing the lunchtime group there, and some of the boys that come to our youth group every so often, actually pretty regularly now, came up and said, hey, Ethan, we're coming to youth this week. We're really keen. What are we doing? And I was like explaining what we're doing, and they're like, okay, can we do what we did last week again? And I was like, nah, because we nearly broke a few things. We'll do it later. Like, we just can't do it every week because we'll cause some damage. And because we're just playing this fun thing where you got to jump on tables and run around. It was great. It's awesome. And they loved it.
It's ultimate tag.
Yeah, it's ultimate tag, which was really fun. So they were really keen, excited by that, right? But they then felt comfortable enough to be three guys who are not connected with church in any way. They felt comfortable enough to go, hey, can we do A, B, C, and D? And I was like, no, yeah. Like, it's this thing of like, we probably can't do some of those things, but we can definitely do it. And there's that thing of, like, yes, I'm in that sense, I am their leader. I am doing the thing because it's youth group, so it's that. But of course, they can have input. It is also something that they are a part of, and something I want them to be a part of, and we want them to be a part of. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. And so I think encouraging. I think again we talk about this all the time, but this friendship thing is one of the steps in that inclusion to belonging thing, because suddenly it's not just we're putting on a thing for you. It's, hey, we want to be friends with you, and so we want to make this yours too. Does that all make sense?
And
is that helpful?
A core strategy for Solis for a long time, which I'm sure you've spoken about before, what Stu's spoken about, and Tim's spoken about, is creating a friend. The youth leaders are a friendship group that we want the young crew to grow up into.
Yep.
And so whether that's beyond that, that's Saturday night as well with late night and anyone hanging out. Like we want, or Sunday morning, we want the crew to grow up into that friendship group. And so something that the crew know that, but something that also gets said all the time is that we're coming on a Friday night to hang out, and it doesn't matter if there's any crew there or not, because we're hanging out as friends, just as leaders. And I think that was like highlighted by the fact at the end of the camp, a bunch of leaders being like, can we just like send the kids home and stay for another couple of days? And we'll have a great time. Like it was made a million times better by the amount of crew that were there and the fact that the crew were there, and that was epic. And most places you'd be like, why would you run a church camp if no crew were there? But I think we would have been pretty fine to just be like, let's just hang out. I think that's a really cool thing, is that you're not just building them up as a group of their own, which they are. They obviously have appropriate relationships with people their own age, and
that's very important.
That's very important as well. But the cool thing is we're also not just going on a youth camp to help grow the grow the crew in their relationship with God, their relationship with each other and with their community. That's happening for the leaders. That's happening for everyone on camp. That's happening for Brado as a camp parent who came just to hang out. That's happening for Ray and Quinn, who came just to service and cook. Yeah. Like that's happening for everyone who was on camp, which I think is really encouraging.
So having the leadership community to grow up into is really important in setting the culture of like, this is for you to grow up in leadership as well.
And it's your church now.
Yeah.
Like, because you will, when you grow up into it, there'll be a few things different, but it won't be that different. Like, because you'll still be serving in the ways that we described that they're serving now. And if not more so, which is going to be really, really cool and really, really exciting to see. What we're doing now is just building your skills at it, which is really cool. Do you need to have, that's the last question, do you need to have a gathering to be able to do that? Because, for example, other people would be like, yeah, we might have a youth group at our church, but we don't have a gathering on a Friday night. My answer's no, but I'd love to hear what you think, Brayden. I like it. Make it spicy.
Yeah, I think it depends on how your youth group's set up. If you're maybe more of a strategic approach or a no guts, no glory approach youth group, then your youth group probably looks a lot like a gathering or a Bible study. Yep. Like there's lots of different youth groups or things that look a lot different. I think if your youth group's more missional focus, has a lot more non-Christians, we have a lot of non-Christians coming to youth, then our youth group obviously looks a little bit different to if our whole youth group was Christians. So I think there is a difference. There is a cool difference between just hanging out and maybe having a formal church gathering. I think there's benefits and negatives, and they've had both. Like at Gymea, there wasn't a church service on a Friday.
No, there wasn't.
As Soul Revival Church there is. And I think there's benefits and negatives to both. Yep. But I really enjoy, and I think we've got a bunch of crew at the moment that really are thriving through having that. I wouldn't assume that every youth group should, because I don't think it would work for every youth group. No. It also works with the space we have.
It does.
The fact we have a factory open on a Friday.
And we can use all weekend.
We can use all weekend, and we can have dinner together, and like that obviously helps as well. So I hesitate to answer that question. I'd say it works for us at the moment. Mm-hmm.
Anything to add on that, Heath?
Well, I think you can achieve a lot of the things we've talked about achieving,
regardless of whether you have
because of what, like Brayden was very helpful in saying that there is a whole bunch of different ways to do youth group, and in all of those different ways to do youth group, there are ways to achieve the things. There are still
young crew that you can raise up.
Totally, and there are still young crew that can feel involved and feel included and feel listened to and feel listened to and feel like they belong, and there is still people, like there's still opportunities to be friends, and there's like all these things all work together, and there is always opportunities for training and stuff like that, if that's what you were particularly looking at. But in all of those opportunities, in all of those differences, it is important to figure out what works in your particular difference.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you, boys. Really appreciate you coming on and talking about youth camp.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're doing it next year then.
Oh yeah.
We'll see.
Unless there's a pandemic.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, it's been awesome having you guys on. Thank you, Brayden.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you, Ethan.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Erk, our producer, to making this all happen for us. Thank you for listening, and leave us a comment, or at least subscribe if you're on YouTube or on your podcast app. And
a fun comment could be a story that you from
your
one of your
favorite youth camp story.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
That would be sick.
Or you can put that on YouTube, or you can email it to me, joel@shockabsorber.com.au. I would love to hear from you. That inbox is a little bit empty at the moment, guys. Come on. I need
So
more.
much spam.
Fill that
it's all
up.
like Domino's, 2 for 1. Tuesday.
That's right. I keep buying pizzas. I'm getting fat. But thank you, boys, and thank you, everyone. And as always, one way.
One way.